Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session titled The Dynamics of Partnership for Social Impact. My name is Victoria Alonso Perez, and I will be your moderator for this session. This is a topic that is super important for me because I am the founder and CEO of ChipSafer. It's a company where we monitor livestock remotely. And I am a social entrepreneur. And I started the company 11 years ago already, and it was started thanks to youth competition. It was called the International Telecommunication Union Young Innovators Competition, and it was for young innovators between the ages of 18 and 25 years old that could solve a problem in their region using telecommunications. And at the time, I was working with small satellites, and I realized that I could use that technology to monitor livestock, which is very important in my region. I'm from Uruguay, and livestock is our main source of export. So I submitted the idea to the competition, and to my surprise, I won the competition. And with that, I started the company. And they provided some funding, and they provided some resources because I had no idea about anything about entrepreneurship. To be honest, I even had to Google startup when when I won the competition. I thought it was a student competition. I didn't even know it was a startup competition. And but that was very important for me, and it was what started the company. But unfortunately, there was this Miss Global Forum conducted a global survey in which it found out that only 16% of youth receive support for sustainable social change. And so to talk more about that and how we can overcome this, we have an amazing panel. Today we have Dr. Manar Almonif, Chief Investment Officer of NEOM, Mr. Toshimoto Mitomo, Executive Deputy President and CSO of Sony Corporation, and Shani Senbeta, Founder and CEO of Kidame Mars from Ethiopia. And so I would like to start with you, Shani. You're a very successful young entrepreneur. And so one question a lot of entrepreneurs have is, how do I start? How could I get funding? And what are your first steps when you decided? How did you decide to become an entrepreneur?
Okay, so maybe I should just quickly tell you what I do. I have two hats, but I started a social enterprise 7 years ago now that works with rural women to create jobs. We train them to sell products in their communities door to door. The reason I started this company is because I saw a need. And that's because my other hat, which is I run a communications and advertising company where we do large projects spreading awareness about different products. So in this case, we were doing a big project about solar lighting and going to hundreds of marketplaces in rural areas and seeing the feedback was that there is no access to these products and people travel every day very long distances to get to marketplaces that have poor quality products and very high prices. So then, from that problem, saw an opportunity to be able to provide access to quality products and also provide income opportunities for women in rural areas. And today we have a network of 8,000 women who are selling products door to door around the country. I also don't consider myself really, and I didn't consider myself an entrepreneur. I don't love to take risk or those kinds of things, but I saw a need that really touched my heart and motivated me, and I felt like I had almost a responsibility to do something. How did I start? I started small. I tested. I started first by putting solar lights in a van and taking them around to different countries, but soon I realized that wasn't scalable. And I was trying, different things with foot soldiers, and then I think when you do something well and you keep at it, you get noticed. So Unilever, which is a very large multinational, heard about what we were doing and asked if we could partner with them to help distribute their products around the country to rural consumers. And that was kind of that opportunity that allowed us to have at least one strong partner that will help us to grow. Yeah, that's how we started. You'll probably ask me about how we raise money later, but I can stop here.
No, that's fantastic, and it's great. I think that it's super important to just say, let's start. Yeah. And then once you start, then you start finding new opportunities. For Toshimoto, looking at the entertainment industry, are there activities that support social entrepreneurs and specifically for big companies? How does that work?
Okay. First of all, this panel is to talk about how to help and work with a young entrepreneur. I feel like that I'm their grandfather's age. I feel so old. But my company is 77 years old. But and I spent 39 years in the same company. So when I joined Sony, the Sony was a very small company making electronics. But nowadays, the entertainment generates 70% of our revenue. So we are transforming from a hardware company towards the content experiments company. So even for the old big corporation, we have to transform ourselves and have to fit us to what the people needs. So we have to grow. But unfortunately, I'm too old, so that I need help. So to me, the working with a young entrepreneur is win-win for them, but also for me. So to answer your question, as a large entertainment company, meeting with young talent is one of the most important things because we can learn a lot of things from them, and we can get a totally new view. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, I love what you say about the win-win because many times as entrepreneurs we think, oh, we are
Don't get scared.
exactly. We're so scared to contact people like you, but we need to have that mindset that it's a win-win and it's opportunities for the both parts. And Manar, you with Neom, you're building a completely new city, a new economy. How does entrepreneurship fit into that equation?
That's a very good question. First of all, being with the crowd over here, I'm really proud. And what makes me more proud, the diversity. I see at least 50% ladies in the crowd, no offense to men. But if you go to any of the other pavilions, you don't see that. So really call out for having this diversity and the mix. And that says a lot about the entrepreneurial spirit, that really how both genders are focusing to that. At NEOM, we're trying to build the city of the future. And that city of the future is going to do three main things. We're going to be introducing a new concept to redefine livability by focusing on human, not focusing on the infrastructure that you're going to have, but what kind of infrastructure you're going to have there to support the quality of life, a healthy lifestyle, as well as social infrastructure that will allow them to connect, to communicate with each other, as well as develop some new innovative ideas. We're also introducing a new concept to redefine businesses. And the way we're looking at businesses is not the same context that you have today. It have a lot of entrepreneurial spirit behind it. We all remember what happened during COVID. When you just, I wouldn't say relax, but when you were flexible on the regulation of testing, how fast was all of the companies to actually move ahead with speed? And we saw a lot of small startups actually introducing new ideas of how should you introduce the vaccine, how should you actually test it, how to develop it. And our focus of redefining businesses will focus on allowing the businesses to grow faster than anywhere else around the world. And the platform of that is creating a very strong foundation around entrepreneurship. What kind of skills do they require? What kind of social infrastructure do they need? Where you can create for them a platform, they can connect with global companies, have access to all of the support function they need, the advice they need. How can they commercialize an idea from a concept all the way to commercialization? How can they network with NGOs, with government? How can they sell the idea to move it forward? That's really what we're trying to do in redefining businesses. And the third thing we're trying to do that I'm really so proud about is redefining conservation, in which we're really trying to understand how do we work with nature. Because to be frankly honest, everyone around the globe has been talking about carbon dioxide emission is increasing on a daily basis. We consume food faster than the time it takes us to grow it. Water scarcity. We're speaking about a lot of things, but no one was able to come and say, that's the solution. And really what we're trying to do at NEOM is to say we're going to build a city based on 100% renewable energy. Today, does that exist? No. Do we have today a baseload renewable energy? No. Are we going to get there? Yes. And what will be a major enabler to help us to get there with the right speed is the entrepreneurs. And really, how fast can they come up with ideas? And we'll help them to commercialize this idea to be part of the plan. So that's what we're trying to do in the city of the future.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs will want to go there. Shani, not only are you a social entrepreneur, but with your company, you also help rural women become entrepreneurs. What are the key lessons learned that you had from your journey, but also from seeing the journey of these women?
Um, I think one of the biggest surprises for me is it took a lot. I thought it was a clear value proposition for the women who are essentially my customers to take advantage of this opportunity to get training and get products that they can sell. But one thing was there was a lot of behavioral change or mindset change that I had to work on. I think, unfortunately, when you say social enterprise, you think about helping people, and especially in the Africa context, I think aid is very big. So people's mindsets have gone a lot towards aid and getting handouts. So there was a lot of mindset shifting that me and my team had to work on in terms of telling people that this is seeing an opportunity that you can work hard and have your own agency towards changing your life in a sustainable way. I think the other thing I feel really passionately about is like for-profit solutions. So I have a for-profit social enterprise because we realized that you can't be sustainable if you're always looking for grants. And so I think it's important, I would say, for social entrepreneurs, for-profit doesn't mean you're gonna, this is not when I think a social enterprise, the way I define it is, you are for profit, but the way you make decisions is led by social impact. That's how you make your decisions. You don't make decisions based on profit. But the profitability piece, even if it takes you 10 years or longer to become profitable or to break even, it's important to think about that piece and think about how you can get revenue in different ways. So these are the biggest things. I think for the women that I work with, what was really surprising is, once they started to earn their own income and they had more independence, especially as women, I think that's very important. And I remember one woman who came to me, she said she has quarreling with her husband about, little things. And when you're financially stressed, it's just stressful overall. And she was mad about blankets because he was taking her traditional blankets and selling them. And then after, a few months of working, she said, I could just buy my own blanket. And I put it aside. And she said something really powerful to me, which was, now I have peace. And I think, it's a very powerful thing to think that through the work you do in social entrepreneurship that you can bring peace to people. I think that's one thing that now continues to motivate me.
Oh, that's great. Toshimoto, could you give a few examples of new technologies which support entrepreneurs to collaborate with each other?
Well, before answering that question, I said I worked for Sony for 39 years. First 7 years I was working in Japan. The next 20 years I'm spending the time in US. And the last 10 years I spent the time in China, India, Middle East, and Africa. Because that is not my choice, because that is what the talents are. So that's why I'm here to meet with as many as the people from those areas, because we learn a lot from them. And so that's before answering the question, but I'm sorry, I'm getting old. So what is your question?
No, I was asking, could you give a few examples of new technologies?
Oh, right. So I now remember why I said that. Okay. So new technologies. We are not selling the technology. We are helping the artist or creator to create the interest in the content. At the end of the day, that's going to be our business. But in new regions, in some area, they do not have enough infrastructure. And for the young entrepreneur to scale big, they have to borrow the money from the bank. They have to hire the lawyers. They have to put the company together. That's a lot of hurdles for them to start doing what they really want to do. So technology, fortunately, the blockchain, NFT, Web3, you name it, use those kind of barriers as low as possible. So I think that nowadays, those kind of technologies, I think that the new creators in those regions should take advantage of those new technologies.
Yeah, and with what you said at the beginning of the answer, so I'm sure there's a lot of young people that would like to be in contact with Sony for collaboration.
Sure.
How can they do it?
Now they know me, and, but put the joke aside. So for example, I was just talking to you before this panel started. We recently formed a fund specialized for Africa. We are working with the International Finance Corp, World Bank, and they are already making a significant investment in Africa, but mainly for the infrastructure, like healthcare, mobile, banking, those kind of things. What we provide is we will incubate the creators locally. If they grow, they can use those infrastructure IFC has already made investment. So again, it's a win-win because I am using their infrastructure, helping entrepreneur in that region. If that business scale, probably there will be surrounding business around that, and then region will become economically profitable, and then IFC get the benefit too.
Yes, and you touched a point that is very important, which is investment. And Manar, you're an expert in investment. I think that this is a question every single entrepreneur has when they start: is how am I going to fund this? So what are your advices for young entrepreneurs on investment? Is it okay to seek investment, maybe a grant first? What do you think? And in the terms of NEOM, is there going to be any program for entrepreneurship?
When you speak about entrepreneurship and developing ideas, funding is not the main problem. It's actually, do you have the right idea to start with? Did you do your benchmark to understand what's the market that you're going to be addressing this idea with? How do you differentiate yourself to stand out, to say exactly, I have what it takes to drive this idea for? You have the resilience, the ability to come and pitch your idea. And trust me, whenever you sit with anyone, regardless they're a CEO of a company or a person that drive technology, once you have a good idea that you're able to sell it to them, funding becomes minor part of that because everyone is willing to put the money behind it. Once you understand the business case, I'm developing this idea because that's the gap in the market. If I develop it, my addressable market is X. This is going to be my cost, what I'm targeting. This can be the profit margin I'm going at. And that's my growth journey. Once you differentiate yourself, funding become irrelevant. It becomes an enabler, but it's not really the main drive. You can have as much funding as you want. If you don't have the right idea with the right passion around it, this funding is not going to help you because you're not going to move forward behind it. And when you look today, I think so in the last 10 years, I would say, entrepreneurship and really grants to support them have came a long way from where it was before. Before, whenever you wanted to idea, there was few bodies that were responsible to drive this within educational institution. You didn't have a lot. You didn't have the right NGOs to support you, the right government support. Now you have not only the government that's providing that, NGOs, private sector is actually contributing significantly. They have a lot of programs, a lot of funds available for you to come and develop ideas. And they open it to the public to come and develop ideas to see exactly which of those make sense to drive it forward. But I think so what would make an idea, I don't want people to only focus on the funding as the own enabler. It's actually how good is your idea? How do you differentiate yourself? You really understand what you're looking at. And once you got that, trust me, funding now, you'll find it everywhere.
That's
I
it.
agree with you because I'm doing the venture capital. The most of the portfolio I make investment, I have to beg them to accept my money.
Oh, can I talk to you?
Huh?
Can I talk to you then?
Yes, but I have to beg you, probably.
Yeah, Shani, how was your experience with investment?
So
Funding,
funding, yeah. So I'm one thing I'm not good at and I don't enjoy is fundraising. So maybe I'm not the best person to answer this question, but I believe I 100% agree with you that the idea is what matters, and when you start doing good work passionately and sticking with it, the universe kind of collaborates, and you meet the right people and the right partners to help take your idea forward. And so, luckily, so far, that has been my experience. But also, maybe another very practical um tip I have from my experience, if you're like me and trying to start a social enterprise, but not necessarily very good at fundraising or enjoying that part, I do recommend that you think about, maybe as you're incubating your idea or starting it, how can you also have earnings or income that you can uh, rely on. So for me, I had my advertising and communications company, which does well, and I could be the one that could invest in my idea first, and start it on a small scale, and then grow it, and then get to that point where I started to have results. I had 200 women, then 400 women, and then partners started to come and join me. So that's one way of doing it, and that's my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's I identify a lot with what you did.
Okay.
In being a social entrepreneur is hard. It's a lot of struggles. It's and um, there's a difference with a normal startup, because there are some other companies in which you can see the returns come very fast, and go exponentially. Whereas with a social enterprise, many times it takes time to get to results. And so that, because of that, some funds are not very eager, or at least were not so eager in the past. And I have a friend of mine, for example, that he has a social enterprise. He's doing very well now, but many years ago he was very frustrated, and he jokingly told me, he's like, "Oh, you know what? I think it's easier if I just have a normal company. I get a lot of money, and then I donate to charities, and I fund entrepreneurs." And so, do you think that that is changing now? Do you think that now there is more investment going into social enterprises as much as for example, the normal companies? Maybe I start with you, Shani.
Yeah, I think so. So I didn't know about this world of investment and venture capitals and patient capital, and even what you're doing at Sony. You're talking about, you're seeing the impact. What I love is it's both from a social impact, but also from a corporate profit motive. But you're patient enough to wait, and so I think today more than ever, there are lots of different types of capital that you can go. There's even hybrid loans and equity investment or grants, and so I think it's worth spending some time to get educated about all the different options, and it's all available online. But yeah, I think it's easier today.
um, Toshimoto.
Yes. So, social entrepreneur is difficult. I have to say that. But it's a very long term. But also, not only economical value, they will create, non-economical value. And I think that time is our side, because now everybody is so keen about the environmental issue, social issue, and so on. And even for the corporate like us, we have to write those kind of a contribution into our annual report, so that our shareholders understand how serious we are to those kind of things. So we have to be serious. When Microsoft made an announcement of $1 billion impact fund, right after that, Amazon made an announcement of another $1 billion. Then I have to scratch his head and then what I'm going to do? I don't have a $1 billion. But, I'm me. I mean, on the social thing is there's a difference, and we acknowledge the difference and we respect the difference. I don't have to copy what other people do. So I started thinking of what would be the some best which I can do. And I thought that, charity is good, but the charity is difficult for the corporate, because if the Sony's performance goes down, we cannot continue such charity. And I think that the most I think that the worst things for those social entrepreneur is by my reason, we cut the funding or we cut the support. And then they're in trouble because of me. So we try to come up with something, the ESG is important, but some kind of cost plus revenue, at least. That is something which we can work with them. After that, whether they want to grow, that's their job. You know what I mean? So I try to differentiate the structure of the fund activity depending on who I am talking to. Am I answering question?
Yes. Manar, do you have any thoughts?
Uh, it's going to make me look bad because I had to Google what does social entrepreneurship really means before coming here. So I come from the venture capital, from the investment world differently. I think so. What's important to say is, again, I really admire the people that take the initiative and do it because they're really looking for the good in general. The question on how sustainable can they be? They can do it for a year. They can do it for 6 months, for another year. But after that, how can you create the sustainable business model to make sure, as you correctly mentioned, it's to cover their cost, but equally to generate a bit of revenues as well as profit so they can grow? Because if they don't invest in what they're doing and they scale it up, they're not going to be sustainable. They will never be able to make a difference and be sustainable. And that's really where the name of the game is we need to take it from the whole beginning is great. Social entrepreneurship is you focus on things that is needed in the community. How can you support? The food bank is an example of that. Great initiative. But how can you really work on the business model to generate revenues that will help you to be sustainable? Model that will help you to grow, to maintain at least. You don't want to create a double-digit EBITDA, at least just to be, so you can grow, you can maintain, you can stay, you can compete. You don't want to say, well, I'm just doing it for a few months and after that you're going to give up because you will not be able to to hold a household, to create a family, to drive, because you want to really move forward and develop things. And I'll just touch base on what you've mentioned on the ESG. I think so. We're using the term ESG. Everyone is using that term now, but no one really went into the deep understanding of what do we mean by ESG. The E is an easy part, which goes everywhere. It's the renewable part. How can you really just make sure you reduce your carbon dioxide emission? Easy. The S is primarily about the social infrastructure, and no one was able to address it. Actually, most companies around the world has been addressing this through one parameter only: diversification, women employment. Women employment will not address the S part. It's a small part of it, but it doesn't address the social impact and the social part that people really need to focus on when we speak about ESG. And I'm not going to go into the G because no one around the world was able to track this and even understand it. It's about creating the governance, creating the ESG taxonomy, ESG standard, ESG KPI. How are you going to measure it? So that's an area that is still further down. But I'd really want to focus now as we continue and we see a lot of social entrepreneurs. I really urge every one of you to start focusing on the S part. How can we play a role in really changing and driving social impact and not only addressing it by women employment, because that's not the measure.
Thank you. And I wanted to ask you a question too, because you're building a whole city. What is your take? Do you think that innovation will just happen, or are you going to create programs to foster innovation too?
No, absolutely. Innovation is at the heart and core of what we're trying to do at NEOM. And the whole concept of, for those of you that might not know about NEOM, when we say it's city of the future, it's simply, every time I start a discussion with someone, I'll say I'm going to take you into a journey of what the future and your life is going to be in the next 50 years. In order to do that, you cannot just use the current systems and everything in healthcare and say that's how it's going to be. We're creating a test bed where you have no infrastructure available to hold you back and say, well, I'm not able to move with the speed because of the existing infrastructure. We're telling you we're going to create a customized laws and regulation that will help you to grow faster. You just tell me what will be an enabler for you to drive it. Creating a platform. The main enabler for NEOM is to actually attract talent. Because if you look at our vision, it's a city building the future. But if any one of you know the vision of NEOM, what is it? It's not to build the largest city, the tallest building. It's to attract the best talent and empower them to actually develop the most pioneering idea. And their only limitation is their imagination. So that's really the vision of NEOM. You can come to NEOM House, go into our website. That's the vision. So it's all about entrepreneurship. It's all about innovation, creating the right platform for people to work. And that's coming to life not only through the regions that we're developing, but through the sectors. And a major enabler for the sectors is actually that innovative spirit. And I'll give you an example. I'm a physician by background. I'm not an investment. So I've came a long way. I've worked in oil and gas renewable, but now I'm dealing with the money part, which is a bit exciting. When you think about healthcare, we've been all talking about healthcare for how many years? We're speaking about not preventative. We're just waiting for a problem to happen and then sort it. We've been speaking about all of the conditions that impact the stress, the lifestyle. No one was able to address it. Imagine, and I'll tell you what, 15 years ago when I used to sell renewable energy, and I used to go to my customer and tell them, I'm going to create a digital twin that will be able to predict that machine, will tell you how it's going to operate, when it's the likelihood that it's going to have a problem, how long is that problem going to last, and how to fix it. We call it, it's a digital twin for all of the turbo machineries that we have. It is today a fact, and it is there. Imagine if we create a digital twin for human that I'll look at your genetic composition, your lifestyle, and I'm going to be able to predict when are you going to be sick, how long, and how can you predict that. That's the kind of ideas that we're starting to develop in NEOM, and we're looking for partners from around the world to do it. We're developing the first cognitive cities, where machines will be able to talk to each other and predict the way that we live. And how can we look for continuous way to improve it? So it's not only about developing infrastructure, it's actually innovation is at the foundation of what we're trying to do. And to your point, what are we doing to create that? We're starting to build an innovation and a research campus today, in which we're trying to create a platform for people to start work and be able to introduce new innovative ideas. What kind of mechanisms, systems are you going to put in place for them to be able to move ahead with that?
That is fantastic. I can't wait to go there. I know Ryan just entered and he invited me, so I'm going to go. Um, one thing that for me was super important in being a social entrepreneur was having mentors. I have my mentor here that she came. And so, Toshimoto, I imagine that you also, with all the young entrepreneurs you're working, mentorship is something very important. Do you have programs for in the incubator that you were talking about?
We do. Unfortunately, at this moment, the most of our activity is in Japan. And we started scaling outside of Japan. So Africa is one, India and China. And we are entertainment company. We are not, invent something totally change the world. So we are creating a content which people can enjoy. So for example, India, China, what we are doing is so-called Hero Project. There are many game creators who wants to be the game product, but they need some help, and we happen to have a PlayStation, platform, and we love those creators create the game which the gamer can enjoy on the PlayStation. That's win-win, right? So we are helping Chinese creators to create a game, and also do the same thing in India. However, interesting thing is India, there is not much the broadband, so that most of the people are, they're playing the mobile game. Then I said, okay, then we should help the mobile gamers, although that does not help the PlayStation right now, but long run, they are going to offer the PlayStation. And then we started talking about maybe we should do the esports. That's tied my connection to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia because 2024, they are going to Esports World Cup. That's my arena. So now I have a chance to work with a new content creator in the Middle East. So that's how, I deal with entrepreneur. And there is no, it's a mentorship is great, but to me, I'm more like equal footage with those entrepreneur because I learn a lot from them. Because if I play the Fortnite, I'd be killed in 10 seconds.
Can't wait to test all that content. Shani, what was your experience with mentors?
Yeah, I think it's critical. Actually, my partners I was very fortunate to have great partners, and they became my mentors and biggest cheerleaders. And I think one more important point about partnership, I mean, we said it before, it has to be a win-win partnership, because everyone's busy these days, and so unless you both need each other, the relationship and partnership won't last that long. So at our social enterprise, Unilever, I mentioned earlier, is a partner, and they supply us with products, which we need for the women, but also they are expecting to get 5% of their sales in Ethiopia from this channel, so they also need us, which keeps them the partnership together. We also have a partnership with the Jobs Creation Commission in our Ministry of Labor. They have a target where they need to create jobs, and then they see Kadame Mart as a great way to meet their targets, because every woman that becomes an agent is getting a new job. And then we also work with financial service company, because we need to digitalize our payments, and they need access to a big network. So that's also a win-win. So I would say just be really thoughtful when you're starting your social enterprise in terms of how can what are all the ways that the partnership supports both sides, to make it a sustainable one. And then because you keep getting close and working together, my partners have all been my mentors. Like in my hardest times, I've been able to go to them for solutions.
Yeah, so important to have a mentor.
Yeah.
And well, now I would like to open it up for questions. We have a few minutes left. Oh, we don't. Oh, the conversation was so interesting. I'm sorry, but they will be here. I guess the three of you will be here. So thank you all very much. And please give a round of applause for our panelists.